Hello, beautiful star seeds. Welcome back to my channel and thank you for being here for another video on Starseed Academy. So today I really wanted to channel some information about Sedona. I had such a mind-blowing, soul-blowing, it was more than mind. And that sounded randomly sexual, so maybe not that term at all, but like a soul transformation that took place for me. And please check out the last video in this Sedona series, which I will link up to this video, and I might actually even put it in the comment section. So if you want to check out my personal experiences in Sedona and the soul retrieval that I went through, then you'll be wanting to check out that video. And in this video, what I want to do is channel some information about the history of Sedona, because I felt such incredibly ancient vibes there. In fact, I was getting like very much Egyptian vibes the whole time that I was there. And so I really want to like tune into why that is and what is going on. Like, it's definitely an ancient civilization vibe. So I want to channel Sedona in general. Then I have Bell Rock, then I have Cathedral Rock, and then I have Pyramid Rock. So Bell Rock and Cathedral Rock are well-known vortexes, and then Pyramid Rock was just, excuse me while I grab my tea, was just a hike that I did that was really beautiful. But it's not like a known vortex, although I do kind of feel like there are a lot more vortexes than the 4 that they claim. So in Sedona, the 4 vortexes are supposed to be Bell Rock, Cathedral Rock, which I did those 2, definitely, they were, and then Airport Mesa, and then Boynton Canyon. So those are the 4, and I did 2 out of the 4. So let's dive in and talk about that. I'm going to put this here so I can reach it more easily. It is, in case anybody is wondering, it is a chamomile vanilla tea with some cream in it, and it's divine. Okay, so I have some crystals with me. I don't have any notes written down on my notebook at this point. My notebook is just a microphone holder and is a holder of rocks. I just have written down Sedona, Bell Rock, Cathedral Rock, Pyramid Rock, so that I didn't forget what I wanted to channel, but I was going to do the channeling live today. So the first crystal that I have, I shared in the last video. I'm really enjoying working with this shape. It's like a different shape for me. I've never worked with this shape before. It's fairly thick, and it has like a groove at the back that fits perfectly into your palm, and then it's like this teardrop shape. This is a clear quartz from Brazil, and I got it in Sedona, and it's been like really incredible for dream recall and channeling. So I'm gonna just have this to help me with clarity and channeling. And if, just in case anybody is wondering, a little crystal tip: if you're channeling or reading or doing a healing for somebody, you actually want the tip to face you, not your client, and you want the back end to face the whatever you're trying to read. So in my case, the other rocks that I'll be reading will be at the back end of that crystal. It acts like an amplifier. So I've got 3 rocks here from different places in Sedona that I will be maybe holding on to or letting this crystal help me to read. Before we jump in, I just wanted to ask you to subscribe to this YouTube channel for new videos every Sunday. There's so many videos on here. Like, really, truly, we've covered so many topics, and I try to organize them into different playlists, and you can check that out. But make sure that you are subscribed for new videos on Sundays. Like and share this video if you like it and want to share it. And then don't forget to come follow me over on Instagram, where there is a giveaway happening right now. So come check that out. It's a pinned post at the top. And there is like more personal content. Like, is it more personal? It's not that it's more personal, because I actually get very personal here on YouTube, don't I? But it is more like just daily content that I share on Instagram, like behind the scenes looks into my life, which not a lot of people get to see. And I do that mostly in a lot of the stories. So come follow me on Instagram for that. And then, of course, don't forget to join the membership group if you haven't already. I know I have a lot of members here already, but if you haven't joined the membership group, then please do so. We have some really powerful, every month, always powerful and potent events. We've got 3 live events that we do every single month. One of those is always a group reading. So you're getting all of these readings from me for like this phenomenal price. And then on top of that, everything that we've ever done since the very beginning of the membership is recorded and organized into like a resource library for everybody. So there's over 100, maybe close to 150 videos in there. Think spiritual business workshops, psychic training, activations, deep cellular healings, working with beings like the Andromedans, Arcturians, Blue Rays, Orions, Council of Light, the Galactic Federation, the Pleiadians. We've done a Venusian astral journey. Like, we're just working with a lot of the Milky Way star nations for sure. And then the group readings, which are amazing. So, okay, so go and check that out. And I think that's all I really wanted to say before we jump in. So I'm going to ask to start out. So I'm going to, who should I connect to? I'm thinking Gaia would probably be like Mother Earth. She's going to have like a lot of the information, but I might also connect to the Council for Humanity. So let me just decide. I'm going to do like a quick mini sacred space. I actually already set one up before this video, but I'm just going to tune in really quickly. Just give me a moment. And I never channel without a sacred space connecting me to like God source, whatever term you prefer for that. And the connecting me, anchoring me into divine truth so that everything that comes through is true. Okay. And anchoring me into divine truth and into divine orchestration and timing so that everything, you know, that happens in my channeling sessions is really for the highest good of all involved. So I'm going to call now on Gaia to please rise up, and the ancient records of Earth. Gaia has access, she's saying, to like the Akashic records of Earth would almost be like her Akashic records because she is Earth. So I'm going to ask Gaia to open up her Akashic records to us. Plus I'm going to call on the Galactic Federation of Light's Council for Humanity because they have been watching humanity like since the beginning of our creation. I'm seeing like what I saw was more of like a desert landscape than the red rocks that we have now, which makes me feel like they kind of like rose up out of the earth after a time, potentially through like plate shifting and earthquakes or something like that. I'm seeing like that either the earth was higher or those rocks were lower, something, because it's not nearly the dramatic landscape that it is now. Though I do still see the tops of everything, you know, like Cathedral Rock, for instance, is what I'm seeing. And it is so tall. It is so big. And like the whole base section of it is under the dirt. And then above that is what we see as like the top of Cathedral Rock is all that there was. It's still a lot. Like even then it would still be magnificent, but it's like half buried. Okay. So I don't know how far back in time we are. Maybe I'll get more details about that. Just want to share with you everything I'm seeing. So lots of desert, a less dramatic landscape, but still there. And I'm hearing for some reason, like a lot of like shrieking hawks, lots of birds. I'm seeing like a lot of heat, and it feels more desert-like than maybe, I mean, it is the desert though now, but anyway, it looks a lot like a desert, probably because there's no cities to break it up. It looks a lot more expansive and open than even now because there's not the modern day life there. Okay. So what do they want to show me about this? What about the land rising? They said they're showing that to me for a reason because they did have settlements, and this is going back before like the Native Americans that have a claim to that land. I really wish I had have looked up which clan it was. I know that the Hopi Indians felt very connected to the Grand Canyon, and I'm not really sure. There might be more than one tribe, to be honest with you, that feels connected to or is connected to Sedona, that's their almost like homeland. But I actually am getting the information that this is before that. So we're talking ancient civilizations, okay? So definitely like more like 10,000 years, not just like within hundreds of years. Okay, we'll get more specific on all of this. Okay. So what they wanted to share with me was that there are settlements that were created through these ancient civilizations that are still there in Sedona, but buried. Now, I really, as soon as we arrived in Sedona, I was getting Egyptian vibes all over the place, and I could not understand why. But I don't think I'm the only person that has connected Egypt and Sedona together. Now, the reason being, even though they are on, you know, obviously like far apart, the reason is that ancient Egyptian lifestyle really took over most of the world. Like, it was a golden age in a way. Even though it was actually coming off the back of a true golden age, it still was a time of great growth, invention, and like a lot of growth within humanity and growth within like um, our energy and our systems that we like would put a like grow a society off of. And in many ways, us being so like we're almost like gone backwards a little bit because of the way that we are so reliant on like dirty energy, like fossil fuels or whatever you want to call those, the things that harm the planet. And in Egypt, I do feel like they had quite a bit of Atlantean tech still. So basically the timeline is like Lemuria melted into Atlantis, which melted into Egypt, right? It was kind of all just actually a descension that was happening. Now, that's because Gaia's cycle is a circle and we have to descend. We can't stay in a golden era for more than like a 4,000 year period, basically. And then we start to descend, and then we hit a dark ages, and then we start to ascend. So I do feel that there was a very ancient civilization that felt like an Egyptian civilization, kind of spread all around the world. But since we're going to be specific around Sedona, I'm going to ask for more specifics around humans at that time and how they lived, and see what I can get about that before we get into the specific vortex sites. Okay, I heard the word superstitious, so I don't know why. I mean, I do know why, because there was a lot of superstition and magic and praying to gods and, okay, and astrology. They're giving me all the things that the people used back then. So there was ancient, wait, what did I just say? There was ancient magic, superstition, astrology, praying to gods, rituals, lots of rituals, and harsh class systems of like we would call them elites now, like the billionaires, but it was really harsh then, where there almost was like no middle class. It was like you're either the slaves of those people or you are those people. Like there was just straight up poverty versus like royalty, it feels like. So, and it feels uneven. Obviously, there's a lot more in this lower class. So again, it does not feel like Egypt. Just saying all of this just has Egyptian vibes. But we're talking about Sedona. Okay. So there's a lot of worship of gods that was happening. Let me see if I can get a time frame here. I keep seeing 10,000. So I feel like, obviously that's approximate, but like around 10,000 years ago. Off the backs of like ancient Egypt, I guess, which again, I have no idea because I don't research a lot of stuff, but I think this is probably going to match up. So I don't know, roughly around 10,000 years ago is where we're at right now. We're in Sedona. I'm seeing these people that are like a small amount of the elites that feels like more like royals, and their people, their closest friends and family. And then below that is like all of these other people that are, you know, a lot more poor. But even in both worlds, it was like a lot of superstition and a lot of like praying to gods. Why is that important? Because it literally ruled their lives. Like the rituals were so big and so important. They did them on the solstices, the equinoxes, and then it looks like women also did a lot of rituals around their cycles, which could correlate with the moon maybe too. And even different conjunctions of different planets. I don't know why, but they're actually showing me the Pleiades, like the 7 stars, and that being something to do with conjunctions of Pleiades and the sun, potentially, that they celebrated that as well. So they knew, they knew they knew all of that, you know, like they were very advanced. They knew what was up in the sky and when things were going to happen. Okay, what else can we share about Sedona? I'm seeing a lot to do with the women. So one second, why are they showing me so much about the women? The women were powerful, and they were very in tune with their own, at least in the area that I'm in Sedona, they were very in tune with their own feminine magic, and because of that, I do see them doing a lot of like I said, rituals around their cycle, and even using the power of the different times of their cycle to bring them luck. And birth, a lot of things around birth. Now, there is a place in Sedona that's called like the birthing cave, and this is where women would go to give birth, to have a holy child, like to have a child that is blessed by the gods, blessed by the nature spirits. And when it comes to like gods, it's not like Christian. It's more like astrological and galactic. Now, disclosure, and galactic gods and stuff were definitely a part of Egypt. So there still would have been, even though I don't feel like necessarily that was going on regularly, because I feel like it was very hot spot, like Egypt was a real hot spot for like disclosure and galactic visits and all of that, and different parts of the world too. But there was a certain time of that, and then it stopped, or it slowed down. It kind of got cut off. And that's a whole other video of why that happened. But in Sedona, I'm feeling like in this ancient civilization around 10,000 or so years ago, it was actually already cut off, and that it was now just like the memories of that and the stories of that and the arts of that, and that those stories were like carried down through generations. However, they still did the rituals and did the worship and all of that. Okay, so astrological worship, galactic worship, but also like nature spirits. So the sun, the moon, the equinoxes, like I said, being really important as well. Okay, so I was talking about, like, in Sedona, there is this cave called the Birthing Cave, and it's been known, they know that in ancient history that women would use it to go together as a community and, give birth, and that this was going to be a way to, like, make sure that the child's life was lucky. Like I said, a lot of superstition for sure. Make sure that the child was going to be healthy and blessed by the gods and have a good life and be lucky and be financially like rich and happy and all the things. And so those communities of women would actually try to like time their birthing together, and they had a way, of doing that. I mean, like the oldest kinds of birth control, where they are knowing when they are most fertile and everything, and they would actually try to do it together because they felt like there was a certain time of year. There's like a great portal, they called it, and they would try to have their children be due around that time, or at least get pregnant at that time. So the great portal feels like not the equinoxes of spring and fall, but the solstices feel like the great portals. So either one of those, summer and winter solstice, to be born on or conceived on, but I feel like more likely they were trying to be born on. And also, the other reason why they were trying to like time their pregnancies is so that they could do it together and help each other and take care of each other. And I do see them like sharing responsibilities of that, because it does take a community, I'm sure, to raise children. And so they would have like the older women being like the grandmothers of all the babies, not just their own. And that the mothers that were nursing or having trouble nursing, the other mothers could help them with that by nursing their babies for them if necessary. It was all just very shared. And I do see that these birthing rituals and the birthing caves, that there was more than one birthing cave for sure. Not just the ones that they talk about already in Sedona, but I do feel like there was sacred sites built for this in particular. But caves make a lot of sense because they symbolize the womb. So, okay, so lots about that. Let me just see. We've talked about that for a little bit. Let me just see what else wants to come through. Oh, and also just a quick flash of the fact that like the royals, just because I don't know what to call the elites back then, like the royals also had their own special birthing rituals that mirrored the ones that I saw of like the more poor people, but they were more exclusive, where there was, like it wouldn't be like everybody trying to be birthing together. It would be like this, if a royal or somebody high up was giving birth, then she would time it again, try to time it for one of those, what did I call it? Like a portal that they called it. But she would have all these servants around her, so she wouldn't need the whole community at the same time, the same way. So that was a big deal. That was one of the superstitions or one of the rituals that was done a lot and was celebrated a lot. And then, okay, and then they're showing me again, yes, equinoxes and solstices were times also of magic and rituals when people were tapping in to different things, like in the spring and in the summer, really tapping into nature spirits and even like the fae, and like tree spirits, you know, like springtime green, life blossoming, all the things. And then in the fall, the harvest, which is pretty worldwide thing that's been happening for, you know, eons of time to celebrate the harvest. And then in the winter, the celebration in the winter was the solstice in the winter was actually to honor your ancestors, right? To honor the dead, because that is like the black void, the darkest night of the year. But they found a way to make that beautiful and celebrate it. So let me see, now that we've seen a lot to do with the women and what they were up to, let me see now if I can see what the men were up to. I saw a lot of farming, right? But that's obviously going to be from the poor class men. Lots of farming and hard labor. And I see them, you know, having livestock for sure. I did see like some typical livestock that looks a little bit different, but they did have like, you know, like chickens, and I don't see like a lot of fish, but that's probably because it's literally like a desert. But I did see like what looks like just chickens, just a different color. Things look a little bit smaller than they do nowadays and a little bit different color because of the area, but like cows, chickens, pigs, smaller than what we would think of though. And other kinds of birds too that they farmed that were chickens that were even smaller than chickens, like looks kind of like a quail or something. So maybe there's something like in that area that would be that. And they, for their eggs and also for the meat, just like today, they did use milk. And actually milk is used in a lot of Egyptian rituals, especially for women to bathe in milk, for beauty and power. And so definitely they had like dairy, you know, items back then. They had a lot of really beautiful food. Lots of breads. I do see honey. So they must have had some kind of bees or something. I see bread and honey and small amounts of fruit and vegetables, but I do see it being grain heavy. So like breads and different grains and some meat and eggs. Okay. So anyway, so that was farmers. Well, that was the point of that, was like what the men were doing. But then the elite men, let me see what they're, and in the poor section, which is again the majority, the farmers, the builders as well. Lots of builders. I see them building roads and buildings and using a lot of stone. And again, it's all like rough hewn and like labor. It's all labor. It does not feel like in Egypt where there was galactic help on the pyramids and stuff like that. It really feels very like, it feels like labor, like man, you know, using their hands and doing the things themselves. Okay, so let me just see what else. Is there anything else about the poorer class? We're seeing the builders, the farmers. Oh, and then there is a bit of an in-between class, the ones that would be like the security, right? They come from probably poor families, but if they're strong, so if the men are very healthy and big and strong, then they are able to elevate themselves and their families into a bit of a middle class where they are like the bodyguard, military protector kind of people. And I do see them with like their own uniforms and like a bit of a, like maybe a spear. I thought it was a staff, but I think it's a spear. Okay, so that's a bit of a middle class. Okay, so now I'm asking about the elite men and what they were up to. I'm seeing like, you know, politicians, we would expect that for sure. What else? And they're saying, and tradesmen. So they would do trade with the best that their region had to offer. I'm seeing like teas. I don't know if Sedona was known for that, but I've seen like teas and herbs and stuff being like something really exclusive, really, really exclusive. When I said exclusive, they showed me like tea being served to a queen, that exclusive, like not everybody's got that. Yeah, so trade, politicians, rulers of the different regional rulers. I guess that's politicians in a way, like mayors and stuff like that. Those are not the terms they would use, but you get the idea. Council leaders, all of that. Okay. What else do they want to? I'm just going to see, is there anything else that we should know or would be interesting for us to know about Sedona, or shall we move on to the vortexes? I'm feeling a lot of, I wouldn't call it religion, but it's the same kind of energies around their rituals and their superstitions. It does kind of feel like a religion, to be honest. They have a lot of weird superstitions in their homes. Like they bury certain things in the center of the home to protect it. I don't know what it was. It was some kind of, you know what I'm hearing? I'm hearing juniper. I don't know. Is that a thing? Juniper trees being for protection? Something to do with juniper trees or berries? Harvested at a very specific time of, not year, but sun? Something to do with the sun. I don't know. There's like holy days for this kind of thing. Lots of superstitions around protection of the home. They definitely believed in like, and had experiences with, they just felt very tuned in for some reason, maybe a higher frequency, because they feel very tuned into like the ancestors and the ghosts and the spirit realms, because I felt a connection to the nature spirits in a nice way, and that they could feel that energy, and even the fae. But on a darker piece, just because I was tuning into like how they protected their homes, I do feel that they could also like tune in or be aware of like darker things, like darker energies, entities basically, and these darker spirits, and that they knew the superstition coming in again, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was actual like truth, because they knew that there were like certain times of the year where the veil was thin, like what we would now call Halloween. But I think that they had more time. They had different times that because it doesn't feel like at the harvest, that feels like a joyful, bounteous time. It feels more like in the dark days of winter, when oh yeah, I said earlier, like the winter solstice or the darkest day was when they tried to honor their ancestors, but that was also a time when the veil was thin, right? So there's a lot of like protection that they would do around those times. They would do things around their doors, and this sounds biblical, but like blood around the door of like of an animal that was sacrificed. So I'm seeing like, again, ritual sacrifices happening. So maybe the poor people would use those smaller birds that I saw, and they would put it around the windows and the doors, because they're sacrificing to a certain god of protection, and then using that to protect them for that dark portal time. I just see like a lot of dwellings made out of rock itself. So like for the poor people, that would mean like carving like a home out of like the rock. Because what else? Their building materials did they have, I guess, right? If it's a desert. But it's very rocky there, especially if they dug a little ways down. So I do see like a lot of a lot of homes being made out of like natural rock faces and walls, and kind of carving into that, caverns, or actually building up, like stacking up stones. They wouldn't really, I don't feel like it got cold back then. It feels like different weather. It feels very hot, or maybe that's just when I'm tuning in, but because like even their winter solstice, what I'm calling that, it didn't feel like winter even when I tuned into it. So I don't really think it got cold. Maybe the weather's changed a little, because I know Sedona can get a little bit cold now, but it feels a lot warmer then. So like that being said, their stone homes would be more for coolness and shade than heat, which was good if that's all they had. And then when it came to like the richer royals, their homes being like palaces carved from like a lot of manual labor to carve like palaces out of like castles, it looks like, but like palaces out of rock faces and pre-existing like structures. Okay, good. So I think we'll move on. I mean, like that's quite a bit about these civilizations. It feels older than even like, you know, when people talk about like, I mean, it just feels a lot older than like native history. And it feels like just after Egypt, in between that time. And I'm thinking, maybe is this around when like the Mayans and the Incas were around? Because potentially it could be like sometime around that. I don't know. Because it has the clan feel, but it also has the Egyptian feel. So it's interesting. So now I'm going to do some channeling about the vortexes. Okay, we'll see. So I don't know if I'm going to do them separate, or if I'm just going to see what comes through. Let's just start. I mean, let's just start with Bell Rock and see what happens with that one, because that is one that I went to. And that, so Bell Rock is supposed to have a feminine and a masculine frequency to it. And what I'm seeing is that, like, a vortex is spinning energy, right? But a vortex can be spinning upwards from the ground up, or it can be spinning downwards, like it's getting sucked into the earth. And those different frequencies are what create either the feminine or the masculine feel. So feminine is pulling down into the womb of Gaia, down into the earth, and a masculine frequency is more of that force pushing upwards. So that is why people think it's feminine or masculine, and maybe that does make it so, but it's really more about internal or external. And we know what those energies feel like, right? Internal feels like going within, shadow work, trauma healing. And external feels like activations and expansion in that. So Bell Rock is supposed to have both. Let me just see what I get from Bell Rock. I actually didn't really try to channel it at all. When we were there, I was too exhausted from my whole experience. But so it's supposed to have both feminine and masculine. Let me just see. You know, what they're showing to me is like the vortex of Bell Rock is like a looping energy. It's both, right? It's like this, it's like a bit of a loop, a cycle, where the energy is pulling down and then coming up and then pulling down. It's like recycling itself in a way, but it's quite large and it still has that spinning feeling to it. Okay. And so it has less of, like, Cathedral Rock is strictly feminine, just the inward. So it has a bit of a quieter feel to it, if that makes sense, if energy could be quiet. Bell Rock has a very loud energy, which is funny because it's called bell, like ding the bell. Like, it's loud. It has a bigger energy. It's much more boisterous. It feels a lot more intense. And it's this, yeah, it's this cycle. Okay. So I don't know, what do I even want to ask about Bell Rock? Like, I mean, we can ask about what is the energy good for, or we can ask about the history of Bell Rock. Let's ask about the history. Let's ask about the history. Because we know current day stuff. Let's go back in time again and say, like, what does Bell Rock, what did it mean to them? Did they know it to be a vortex? Okay. So tuning into Bell Rock, I saw people would use it back then in ancient times for, not so much for healing, but actually for things like vision quests. And that, in fact, that was a part of their, like, heritage, to go on these vision quests. It kind of like, so for a younger man maybe coming into his own, he would go on a vision quest to, like for women, they had different rituals about coming into your womanhood, which was very much like community around the women and secret. And for men, it was very like this adventure, this experience, going out into the night on your own and dealing with the dangers of that nighttime, whether that be weather and the elements or scorpions, or, you know, the fact that it's a mountain that's extremely steep. But it looks like Bell Rock was used more of a vision quest, and that they would literally climb it and see, like, how high you got was supposed to be the heights of your glory. You know what I mean? Like, if you got here, then you're going to have this amount of glory in your life, but like getting all the way to the top would be like great, like a great glory to it. And that there were deaths that happened around that because there was a lot of pressure to achieve the highest height. And I'm thinking, like, that those souls are still around the vortex. So now what I'm hearing from Spirit, from Gaia, and I told you I was tuning into at the beginning of this, Gaia and the Council for Humanity, is that vortexes actually attract a lot of spirit activity, which I didn't really think, but it makes sense because it's a powerful thrumming energy and it would attract that. And so, yeah, definitely, if there are like wayward souls, that ancient souls that died doing this vision quest, or I don't know what souls would be attracted to it today. I don't know if people really die there, probably not so much now, but like, that the vortex almost holds on to the souls, you know, like they almost become a part of it. That's what it feels like the souls become a part of that churning energy and give it the personality and the power that it has. That's really powerful. And that's why Bell Rock has a bit more of like a chaos energy in my mind, like a very much more like active energy than some of the other ones. Okay. Anything else that we would want to know about Bell Rock? Okay, so I see what they maybe used it for back then, like for just the men, young men. Okay, so there's also too, though, this whole Vision Quest thing and the layers. It's kind of like if you look at Bell Rock, there are layers to it. Like it's not just it is in the shape of a bell, but it's not just like smooth. It comes up in layers to the center of the top where the bell handle would be that you would ding. So there's like these layers, and the shamans or medicine men or whatever they would be called then, like the dream walkers and the prophets and all those kinds of like very magical people tuned into the realms of the astral and spirit realms. They would also use this powerful place to commune with spirit, believing that that mountain had its own spirit too, like the spirit of the mountain would be able to answer their questions and give them visions and show them the next steps and stuff like that. So really powerful. Now okay, sorry, I have questions just from that. It's like, okay, if they're talking about the spirit of the mountain, is it separate from the vortex, or is that the spirit of the mountain? And I just really feel like I want to know that. So 1 second. Oh, okay. So like vortexes can be caused by, there's these things in the earth called ley lines, which are like, oh, how would you explain? Like in our energy system, we have like chakras and then channels between chakras, like meridians of energy, lots of different channels. That would be like Earth has that too. So she has chakras in the earth, which they've like, recognized a lot of where the chakras for Gaia are. Hawaii is one of the chakras. I know that. I can't remember the other ones right now. But there are also ley lines. And a lot of the time ley lines are where sacred sites are. And so if there's a vortex of energy, it could be like, even if it's a minor ley line, and the fact that this is a loop, it's like ley lines crossing paths. Like, okay, you know how in the ocean, current is a one-way thing? It's just energy flowing in one way. Some of the vortexes flow one direction, but other ones where two currents clash creates a churning, and there'll be like more drownings in that area. It's like a churning thing. Okay, so two ley lines twisting each other up. So that's Bell Rock explained. Let's move on now to Cathedral Rock. So Cathedral Rock was a lot of a more peaceful, quiet, gentle, feminine energy. The energy is just going in one direction, which is down. So it brings you more into yourself and connects you more to like grounds you to Gaia, and to like deeper parts of yourself too. It does feel very feminine. So let me just tune in. Okay, what I want to show you guys, actually, I'm going to cut in a video right now, is when I climbed Cathedral Rock, which was extremely intense and like way harder than climbing Bell Rock. It was very steep. It was very scary, but I did it. When I got to the top, you're almost like in a horseshoe of rocks. If you're in the center of this horseshoe of rocks, and then looking out is like this incredible view. So it's like a semicircle of like these walls around you, and then you climb up to the top and you can see outside of that is this gorgeous view. But in the center, on the ground, and this is kind of like a womb feeling, right? Like you're snuggled in this womb. In the center on the ground is this really weird ancient site. It didn't fit in with anything around it. I'm really surprised that I couldn't find anything on Google and nobody's talking about this, because it's so obvious when you get up there. But I feel like people get so in awe of the view that they overlook it. But I'm going to show you a video of like an ancient structure of these crazy, like old, some kind of structure was built there. And if you look, there are these gray stones that are built in a wall that was obviously something bigger that has crumbled since, but the stones look like roughly hewn together, like used, and there's something used to hold them together, like some kind of old ancient cement, whatever they use, probably similar to what we use now, really, like dirt and water and whatever. And there's also almost like a spiral pattern in the wall, if you look really closely, a bit of like a weird pattern that the rocks make. So I'll run that video for you. And then I want you to think about that as I'm channeling Cathedral Rock, because that's just like evidence of these ancient civilizations that we're tapping into for this whole video, right? Something older than the natives, because they really weren't using a lot of, it's almost like we regressed, like I said, backwards, and then the natives are almost like starting over again. But there was more like technology and understanding around construction, and like just like with Egypt, right, where we wonder, how did they know how to do all of this stuff? Well, they still knew how, and like then it kind of like faded over time. Okay, so let's ask about Cathedral Rock, which is this really beautiful feminine energy. And you arrive at the top and there's like this womb feeling, and then at the center, at the bottom, is like a canyon with this weird structure. So I want to ask about the structure. What is that? So definitely has to do with some kind of a ritual. This is all timed again to solstice. It feels connected to the way that the sun would hit at a certain, like on the summer solstice. That's the brightest, longest, sunniest day of the year, if the sun is out. But it's out for the longest period of time. And there's like a period of time for Stonehenge where the solstice energy, and I don't know if the winter solstice is also included in this or if it's just the summer, but that the sun hits in a certain way. And it's supposed to create something magic within Stonehenge. So I feel that's the understanding that I'm being given to here. So again, connected to nature, connected to like the calendar, not the calendar so much as like the heavens, the way that the planets move, and the sun and the moon and all of that. So side note, I was born on the summer solstice, so that's why I'm so magical. So the ancient wall that was there was part of a larger structure that had to do with ritual, and it had to do with, it feels like summer, it feels like the summer, it feels like the height of summer, and it had to do with that. Ooh, as I'm tuning in, I'm spinning. Oh, my body starts to spin sometimes when I get really like tuned into, and this is spinning in the counterclockwise feminine way. So I tuned in and I asked, what is this structure? And it was immediately this vortex spinning in counterclockwise. That is the vortex of Cathedral Rock, and it's underneath, because that structure is right in the center. And that is like right above where they measured this spinning portal vortex into the power of the earth and Gaia. So you go in there, and it looks like it was actually like a hut made out of stone, like not small though. It looks like an enclosed building. Not at first I thought it might have been like a pedestal or like a podium built for like sacrifice and stuff. I'm not feeling that now. Now I'm feeling like it's this rounded, or this building where you can go inside of it and you're closed in to that vortex energy. Almost like where in the Mayan traditions you get, what's it called when you go into that really, really hot, one second, Temescal? Is that what it's called? Where you go in and you're like locked into the energy and they create this crazy like power, and you're in it. That's what it feels like anyway. So it concentrates the vortex energy. It's almost like it's placed right on top of that spinning force. And then you go in there. Okay, let me see why they go in there. What kind of experience are they going in there for? Oh, wow. That is not what I was expecting. That is not what I was expecting at all. It's almost like it does feel reserved to the royals, right? Like it feels sacred, and it feels like it's only available to, unfortunately, to like the higher ups. And it feels like the frequency of it and the time when they would, it feels like a sacred place for consummation. So that was not like the vision I was expecting to have, but that's what I saw when I like closed my eyes, that it was like, that there was like, fur beds and different things, and that you would actually go there for sacred consummation. So again, a lot around like birthing coming up today, and like the roles that everybody would play. But anyway, let me see what else wants to happen, or what wants to come through around that. And it just feels too like it was like very reserved. I said that before for the elites, but even they had to like not share it, but like, I'm sorry, what are the words that are failing me? Not like almost reserve it. Do you know what I mean? Like have rights to it at certain times of the year or whatever. It was very sacred. And so the most sacred and the most life force that I feel, they would be charting that for different days. So maybe certain phases of the moon, maybe it's the best on a full moon, the power of it, or on that summer solstice, like I was feeling. But those days would be like reserved for like the kings and the queens, and then maybe the in between, like royals and different thing, people could get access to it at other times. But anyway, it felt like for consummation. So I don't really know if anybody's picked up on that before when it comes to Cathedral Rock, but it does feel like very powerful. It does feel like this divine feminine. It does feel like you're in a womb. And then I saw that ancient structure there, so picture it being more of like a building, and kind of like closed in. Like I don't see any windows or anything other than the door, almost like a closed in thing to keep the sacred energy in, because it was placed directly over top of the vortex. Okay. I'm going to ask if there's anything else about Cathedral Rock that wants to come through, and then we'll move on to the last one. I'm seeing like a lot of like flower petals, that they would bring gifts to, you know, when they felt powerful vortexes, they felt that it was a god. And so they would bring like flower petals and milk and honey and things like that to as a gift to, and have like maybe an altar within that building. Maybe that's what I was picking up on that before they do their consummation rites, to like ask for a blessing. But anyway, that's all that came through beyond that. And that it was such a sacred place too, almost like a church in a way, which is funny because it's called Cathedral Rock, that it was actually protected even when nobody was there. It looks like somebody was also always kind of like stationed in or around that area to protect this very sacred womb space. Okay, so I'm going to ask now to shift gears, and I'm going to ask about Pyramid Rock. Now, Pyramid Rock is literally what it sounds like. It's a mountain in the shape of a pyramid. It's way too specific to not actually be a pyramid. The ground doesn't do that naturally. So it absolutely is a pyramid. And there are pyramids all around the world. Lots in Mexico that I've been to, and obviously Egypt and many, many areas of the world. And it's another sign of an ancient civilization hotspot, like the Mayans and the Incans and the Egyptians and all of that. And so I'm going to ask about Pyramid Rock. I mean, what is the significance of it or the power of it? So they're saying pyramids are built to amplify, right? To amplify power. And they're saying that its location was very specifically chosen according to like constellations above. Again, I'm kind of feeling like a bit of a Pleiades thing. Not really sure what that is, but something to do with they were very connected to that in some way. And so it's not necessarily that there was a vortex there, but that the pyramid itself would amplify any energy that was there and create a connection between heaven and earth. Oh, and that's what a pyramid's shape does too. It's like the largest part is to the earth, which is us, and then the smallest part is to create that connection and to call it down to earth. So bringing heaven down to earth is what a pyramid is supposed to do, or the energies of that. So that's what it was made for, and it is a true pyramid. And underneath all of the, like, I mean, now it's just like a crumbling mountain basically, but it was carved away from something bigger. So unlike in Egypt where maybe the pieces were brought in, because it's a mountainous region, they can carve away, just like they do with their homes, right? When I was saying about how they would have a rock face and carve their home out of it, there was something larger there that was carved into the shape of a pyramid. And it was a lot crisper and cleaner and maintained, and now it looks a little ragged, but it's still clear that it's a pyramid. And so that was to amplify the energies to bring heaven down to earth. And it's not the only pyramid in Sedona at all, but the pyramids there are different in the way that they're carved out of something that already exists, as opposed to bringing stones in and building something. So they're a little bit more natural in a way. And it's almost like it then becomes a holy site. So I said that they were it felt like religion, but it wasn't, because it was like superstitious and worshiping the gods and rituals and all of that. It just fits right in with that. It feels like it then becomes, once the pyramid is created, it's almost like sanctioned or made holy by some kind of priest-like person, priest-like person. And then it becomes consecrated to be this holy place that people can go and commune with the gods, basically. Okay, so let me see if I had anything like, what did they do? Did they go? No, I was going to say, did they climb it? No. That would have been a privilege only given to very few people that would be able to climb that. Not like Bell Rock, where it was like a vision quest for a lot of different people. If it's specifically carved into a pyramid shape and then made into like a holy land, a holy site, then it becomes sacred, and only certain people would be allowed to commune with the gods, which is really what you would be doing when you go there. Okay, so hold on. Because it feels now like there are, like I said, priests, but they're not religious, so it's just the words that are the closest that we can have in the English language. But like a priest would be somebody that was like a specialist, that would be an advisor to the king or the royals, and they are a specialist in astrology, the gods, rituals, the ancient ones. Like they know what's up. Like they've been following the history of it, and maybe their grandfather or their father also had this role, and so the secrets are like kind of handed down from generation to generation, and that's also really what makes like a shaman or a medicine man too. A lot of the time that's generational as well. But anyway, this feels more like somebody that knows all the stories of the old ancient ones, and a scholar in a way that studies it all, and somebody that knows the rituals, knows the prayers, which maybe wouldn't be called that, but knows the prayers to say, and maybe it would be still called prayers. Okay, so other than that, is there anything else about Pyramid Rock that wants to come through? Seeing that it was carved out of something bigger, seeing that it was holy, sacred, seeing that it was to bring heaven down to earth, to connect with the heavens, and that they are very strategically placed according to what's above them. And that because the heavens always are moving, because we're always moving, so there would be like a time when like the Pleiades would pass over it. That would be like a really special time, or different constellations passing over it, or the sun, or different things. And then if you're not like maybe one of the more elite people that are allowed up there, then you could still come and stand at the base of it and place. I see people using flowers a lot for blessings, like different blossoms. And so I see people coming and, having a prayer to the gods and placing a flower at the base of the pyramid would also be acceptable. Okay. I think that's pretty much it for what I had written down for what I wanted to channel. Definitely let me know what you think. I'm just asking quickly if there's any like final messages that they want to bring through. Just what wants to come through is that vortexes there are undiscovered vortexes. So for instance, you might be going for a beautiful walk through your property or your woods or something, and you feel that power of something. And definitely there are vortexes which are spinning energy that amplifies things, either in the upwards direction or in the downwards direction, or maybe there's sideways directions. And it's when ley lines or currents of energy, of Gaia's natural energy, kind of collide and create a bit of a vortex, right? Like a spinning energy. And so those are powerful places that stir up the things within us and can really help to either activate us or bring up things that need healing or create the way that the full moon stirs up our energy. It just stirs it up. And that's why so many sacred sites are built on ley lines, because they give it that extra oomph, that extra power. But just basically the message coming through is that there are lots of vortexes on Earth. And just because those are the well-known ones doesn't mean that they're the biggest or the best or whatever. There's so much to discover. So I think that there are different apps and websites that you can research ley lines. And when you find an intersecting ley line, you just might find yourself a vortex. So I'm going to leave it there. I want to thank you all so much for being here and being interested in Sedona. If you're here, maybe you've been there, you've always wanted to go there. Highly recommend it. My next bucket list place is definitely Easter Island. I cannot wait to make a video about it and even film a video while I'm there. That would be so powerful. But I just want to thank you all so much for being here. A reminder to subscribe for new videos every Sunday, comment, like, share, do all the good things. Thank you so much for supporting me in that way. It really helps the channel and helps people to find these videos. Don't forget to head on over to Instagram. Make sure you're following me there. Participate in the giveaway that's happening. And other than that, thank you so much. Thank you so much, beautiful starseeds, and I want to remind you, as always, listen to your heart and the quiet voice within, because you are so much more than the body you are in. I love you. Have a beautiful day. Bye.